So Mary Ann Cotton, in her early childhood, was also known as Mary Ann Robertson. She was born on the 31st of October 1832 at Low Morsell, County Durham, to Margaret Lansdale and Michael Robertson. Michael Roberts, a colleague sinker and baptised at St Mary's, West Rainton on the 11th of November. Her sister Margaret was born in 1834, but lived only a few months. Her brother Robert was born in 1835 when Mary Ann was 8. Her parents moved the family to County Durham, village of Marton, at the same time of her trial. The North Echo published an article containing a description of Mary Ann given by her childhood. Wesleyan Sunday School, a superintendent at Marton, described her as the most example regular attendant girl of innocence, discretion, and average intelligence, distinguished for her particularly in cleaning and tidying. Appearance soon after they moved, Mary Ann's father fell 150 feet (46 meters) to his death down a mine shaft at Merton's Colliery in February 1842. Her father's body was delivered company as a miniature cottage they inhabit was tied to Michael's job. The widow and children would have to be evacuated in 1943. Her mother married George Stokes, in 1860 to 1895, also a miner. At 16, Mary Ann was left home to become a nurse at the nearby village of South Hetsey in the home of Edward Potter, a manager of Merton Colony. After all the children had been sent to boarding school in Darlington over the next 3 years, she returned to her stepfather's home, trained as a dressmaker. In 1852, 20-year-old Mary Ann married a colony labourer, William Mowbray, at Newcastle upon Tyne, Register Office. They soon moved to south-west England. At the time of her trial, there were reported of 4 or 5 of their children dying young while they were living away from County Durham. None of these deaths are registered, as though registry wasn't compulsory at the time. The law was not enforced until 1874. The only birth record was that of their daughter Margaret Jane, was born at St Germain's in 1856. So William and Mary Ann moved back to North East England, where William worked as a fireman abroad as a steam vessel sailing out of Sunderland, then as a collier foreman. And other daughter, Isabel, was born in 1858, and Margaret Jane died in in 1860. Another daughter was also named Margaret. Jane was born in 1861, and a son, John Robert Williams William, was born in 1863 but died the next year of a form of gastro fever. William died of an intense intestinal disorder in January in 1865. The lives of William and of their children were insured by the British Insurance Office, and Mary collected the pay of £35 on William's death, equivalent to 3,560 in 2021. That's about half a year's wage for a main labour at the time, and £2 for John Robert William. Soon after Mowbray's death, Mary Ann moved to Seaham Harbour, County Durham, where she struck up a relationship with Josepha. During this time, her one and a half year old, the second of Margaret, Jane, died of type fever, leaving her with one child. Of up to 9 she had born, she returned to Sunderland and took up employment at the Sunderland Infirmary House of Recovery for her cure of contagious fever dispenser and human satire. She sent her surviving children, Isabel, to live with her mother. One of her patients at the infirmary was engaged with George Ward. They married at St. Peter's Church, Monkwearmouth, on 28th of August 1865. Ward continued to suffer an illness and died on the 20th of October 1866 after a long illness characterized by paralysis and intense problem. The cause of death on his death certificate is that of an English chloroid and tie hold. The attending doctor later gave evidence that Ward had been very ill, yet he had been surprised that his death was so sudden. Once again, Mary Ann collected insurance money in respect of her husband's death. James Robertson was a shipwright at Paddington in Sunderland, whose wife Hannah recently died. He hired Mary Ann as a housekeeper in November 1866. A month later, when James's baby John died of gastro fever, he turned to his housekeeper for comfort, and she became pregnant. Then Mary Ann's mother lived in Seaham Harbour, County Durham, become ill with hepatitis. So Mary Ann immediately went back to her. And though her mother began to recover, she also began to complain of stomach pain. She died at age 54 in the spring of 1867, 9 days after Mary Ann arrived in 1867. Mary Ann's stepfather, George Stuck, married his widow neighbour Hannah Pell. Mary Ann's daughter, Isabel Mowbray, was brought back to the Robertsons' house and soon developed severe stomach pains and died, as did 2 of Robertson's children, Elizabeth and James. All 3 children were buried in the last week of April. The first week of May 1867, Mary Ann received life insurance payout of £5 tens 6 days for Elizabeth Robertson's married Mary Ann at St Michael's, Weymouth on the 11th of August 1867. Their first child, Mary Isabel on her baptism record, was born that November, but she became ill and died in February 1868. Their second child, George, was born in the 18th of June 1869. Robertson, meanwhile, had become suspicious of his wife's intent that he had insurance his life. He discovered that she had run up debt of £60 behind in his bank and stolen more than £50 that she had been expected to bank. Then he found that Mary Ann had been forcing his older children to the prawn household vulnerables. He threw her out and retained custody of their son. Mary Ann was desperate and living on the streets until her friend Margaret Cotton introduced her to her brother Frederick, a pitman who recently widowed, living in Welbottle, Northumberland, who had lost two of his four children. Margaret had acted as a substitute mother for the remaining children, Frederick, Jay, and Charles, but in late March 1870 she died from an undermined stomach ailment, leaving Mary Ann to consider that the grieving Frederick soon her 12th pregnancy was underway. Cotton and Mary Ann were married on the 17th of September 1870 at St Andrews, Newcastle upon Tyne, and their son Robert was born early in 1871. Soon after, Mary Ann learnt that her former lover Josephine was living 48 kilometres away, 30 miles away in County Durham village of West Ancland, and was no longer married. She reconnected their romance and pursued her new family to move near him. Cotton died in December of that year from gastric fever, and insurance had been affected on his life, though these of his sons. After Frederick's death, Natra soon became Mary Ann's lodger. She gained employment as a nurse to an excise officer to recover from smallpox. Popular culture source to have called him John Quick Manor, though there appears to be no trace of a John Quick Manor in records of the West Ackland. Brewed on the National Archive, the concerned record birth and death married record also shows no trace of him. However, Richard Quick Manor, a customer and exercise man specialized in brewery Brawire and has been found in the records. His men may be the real name of Mary Ann Cotton Lover. Soon, Mary became pregnant by him with her 13th child. Frederick J. died in March 1872, and the infant Robert soon after. Then, Natchez became ill with gastro fever and died just after receiving his will. In Mary Ann favour the insurance policy Mary Ann had taken out on the still living Charles. Life is still waiting to be collected. Mary Ann's downfall came when a purchase officer, Thomas Riley, asked her to help her nurse a woman who was ill with smallpox. She completed that, and the last surviving cotton boy, Charles Edward, was in the way and asked Riley if he could be a comment on the workout. Riley, who also served as a West Auckland assistant coroner, said she needed to complete him. She told Riley that the boy was sick and added, "I won't be in trouble long he he goes like all the rest of the Cottons." 5 days 5 days later, Mary Ann told Riley that the boy had died. Riley went to the village police and convinced the doctors to delay writing his death certificate until the circumstances could be investigated. Mary Ann's first visit after Charles' death was not to the doctor but the insurance office. Though, though she discovered that no money would have been paid out until the death certificate was issued. An inquiry was held and the jury returned a verdict of natural causes. Mary Ann claimed to have used a route of to relieve his illness and said Riley had made accusations against her because she had rejected his advice. Then he told the local newspaper, latching on the story that discovered Mary Ann had moved around North England and lost three husbands, a lover, a friend, her mother, and 11 children, all of who had died of stomach fevers. Rumour given to raise suspicions of specific investigations. Dr. William Byes and Kill, who had attended Charles, had kept a sample and tests showed they continue. He told the police, who arrested Mary Ann and proceeded exhuming of Charles's body. She was charged with his murder, though the trial was delayed until after the delivery in Durham on the 7th of January 1873 of her 13th and final child, who she named Margaret Edith Quick Manor Cotton. So Cotton's trial began at Durham Assist on the 5th of March 1873. The delay was caused by a problem in the selecting of process counsel. A Mr. Aspinwall was first considered, but the Attorney General Sir John Duke also decided it was choose his friend and protect Charles Russell appointment over Aspinwall led to questions in the House of Commons. However, it was acceptable that Russell conducted the process, and Cotton's case was first ever several famous poison cases he would be involved in during his career, including those of Adelaide Bartlett and Florence Maybrick. The defence in the case was handled by Thomas Campbell Foster, who was agitated during the trial that Charles had died from inhaling arsenic using a dye in the green wallpaper of Cotton's home. The doctor testified that there was no other powder on the same shelf in the Jessamine shop as the only liquid. The chemical himself claimed that there were other powders that Campbell Foster argued that it was possible that the chemical had mistakenly used arsenic powder instead of bismuth powder used to treat diarrhea. When preparing a bottle for Cotton become, he had been distracted by talking to other people. The jury returned 90 minutes before the return of a guilty verdict. The correspondent reported on the 12th of March, after the conviction, the rich woman incubate strong emotion, but this gave a place in a few hours to her heaping of gold reserve. While she had harbored a strong conviction of innocence of the crime that she had been convicted of, several petitions were present, and the Home Secretary, but to no avail. Mary Cotton was hanged at Durham County Gallows on the 24th of March 1873 by William Cash. She died not from the neck break but by strangulation caused by the rope being ridged. The two shot with possible debilation of Mary Ann. 13 children, only 2 survived. Margaret Edith, 1873 to 1954, and her son George from her marriage to James Robertson. So that's it from this case. I kind of do wonder sometimes if, like, obviously back then you were hanged and killed. Would have that stopped more crimes taking place? I'm not saying it obviously 100% did, but obviously now we're a bit more softer and try to reform people in, like, 2023. It just makes you wonder, was there less crimes back in those days with, if you know that you could end up being hanged, or let me know your thoughts in the comments. But happy Halloween, everyone.